All right. We have no children in the group. We won't bless the children today. We go ahead and get our service started. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher kidshanu. B'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'aseh b'divrei Torah. Blessed are you, Yahweh, our Elohim, King of the universe, who command us to grow ourselves in the words of the Torah. Yeshua's name, so be it. All right, before we get started with this study, I've got two questions for today's lesson that I want you guys to have in mind. The first question is, what is the Most High's feelings towards mankind? This is pre-fall and post-fall, okay? Pre-fall and post-fall, we want to know, what is the Most High's feelings towards mankind? And then the second question I want you to think in terms of is, what plan does Satan have for mankind? What plan does Satan have for mankind? And we're still in Genesis, the first three chapters. So we're going to start off reading Genesis 1:26. I'll put up the scripture. Should be able to see my screen.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay.
Genesis
1:26. We're going to be using the Hebrew names for his name. And Elohim said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowls of the air, over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth." So Elohim created man in his own image. In the image of Elohim created he him. Male and female created he them. And Elohim blessed them. And Elohim said unto them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowls of the air, and over every living thing that moves upon the earth." So we see in his creation, first of all, man was created not after amoeba, again, not after no chimpanzee or no ape, but he was created in the image and likeness of the Most High. He is the Most High's representative on the earth. And we're going to skip down to verse 31. And Elohim saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was, this first time we use these terms, very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day. So based upon these verses of scripture, what do you think that the Most High feeling was towards mankind?
I would say like a father, proud, very prideful,
Absolutely.
loving.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. 100%. Okay. Outstanding. Now, let's go to Genesis 3. Last week we saw the fall of man. We're gonna actually start at the first verse, chapter 3. And this we're gonna spend quite a bit of time in chapter 3 here today. At least a lot of the things we're gonna be dealing with is gonna be from this. Genesis 3:1. Now the serpent was more subtle, he was slick, he was sly than any beast of the field which Yahweh Elohim had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath Elohim said, Ye should not eat of every tree of the garden. So we see one of Satan's first tools that he used against man, and that is to twist the word of Elohim. He twists the word to cause you to be confused by what the word is saying. So it's very important that as we talked about in previous lessons, that you need to study to show yourself approved. A workman or workwoman that need not be ashamed, you must rightly divide the word of truth. Because if you're not clear on the word, the enemy will twist you up and have you doing something you have no business doing. Verse 2, and the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. That is incorrect. That is not what the Most High said. He said, you may freely eat of every tree, right? You may freely eat of every tree. And again, the analogy we use is that, you know, the owner of a Walmart, he walks in and say, you may freely get from every shelf, right? He offered them super abundance, everything in the garden, he said they can have access to. But then he got to the one tree. He said, but of this tree, do not eat it, or you shall die. So that one tree represented lack. Okay, that one tree represented lack, just the one thing out of all the abundance that was in the garden, the Most High said, reserved for me. Honor me with this. Go ahead.
Well, why did you say it represented lack?
Because there's only one of them. Everything else was superabundance.
Mhm.
But that one
But
tree,
that one
that one tree is just one thing, one item they couldn't have.
Or touch.
Or touch, right? They shouldn't touch it, right? If they had not been eating it, they shouldn't touch it. He didn't say anything about
No,
touching it.
no, he just said don't eat.
Don't eat of it, right?
Mhm.
But it, you know, isn't that there were not an abundance of trees that he
Mhm.
restricted them from.
Okay,
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
It was only one tree,
gotcha.
right? Go ahead, I see that hand.
But on chapter 3,
Mhm.
it says, but of the fruit of the tree, which is in the midst of the garden, God hath, Elohim
Mhm.
has said, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it,
Who's
lest you
talking?
die.
Who's talking though? Who said that? That wasn't the Most High that said that.
This again, and she's correct on that. Look, go back to verse 2. Let's pick it up again.
Okay. Who and what?
Sorry, chapter 3, verse 2. I want to start at verse 2 so we can see who's talking. And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees in the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Elohim has said, you shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it, lest you die. Now, who said that? Did Elohim say that, or was that Eve saying what Elohim said?
That was Eve saying that as her interpretation.
That was her interpretation of what the Most High said. Now, since there's a question about that, let's go back. Chapter 2, 2 and 15. We start reading there. And Yahweh Elohim took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to dress and keep it. And Yahweh Elohim commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat. Of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat. But, and let me look at this now. But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, thou shalt not eat of it. For in the day that thou eat thereof, thou shalt surely die. Now, did he say anything about touching it?
No.
Okay. So that was Eve's misinterpretation
Okay.
of the word. And why is that important? Because, you know, he said nothing about touching it or you die. Because what happens when she goes and grabs that fruit and she's touching it and nothing happens, right? She did not trigger sin until after she ate the fruit, right? So now if she's wrong in her thinking, and she said, well, God said if I touch this thing, I'm gonna die. And then she started touching it, and that don't happen. Death don't happen at the touch. But maybe he was wrong about eating it too, right? So you gotta rightly divide this word. You gotta have a clear understanding of what the Most High is saying.
Or who's talking?
And who's talking. That's critically important. Because this is the Bible, but there are so many different people that's talking here. So you got to know, first of all, who's talking,
And who's talking to who?
and who he's talking to, right? Right, because that's going to change if you know. I mean, consider Job. To give an example, there's some 42 chapters in the book of Job. Most of the talkers are his three friends. But when you get to the end of Job, the Most High said, "You three have not spoken right concerning me, as my servant Job has." That's over half the book of Job that these guys were talking. So if you try to take what they were saying and create a doctrine out of it, you're going to be in error. Because the Most High said that you have not spoken right concerning me as my servant Job, right? So we got to understand who's talking, right? And who they're talking to so that we can rightly divide the word, okay? Back to Genesis 3. Verse 4 now. And the serpent said unto the woman, you shall not surely die. So this is another one of his tricks now. He wants to get you to doubt the consequence of going against the Most High. If he can get you to doubt, right, that consequence, then he can get you to do things you have no business doing, right? Oh, it's all right. You can shoot that needle. You know, it's not gonna cause no problem. You know, you're not gonna create no habit, right?
Right.
You know, you can drive fast, you know, and you know, do donuts and all this stuff in the middle of the street. No, nobody gonna get hurt, right? How many times have you seen on the news where people are doing donuts and yeah, people get killed hitting up on the side of trees. You know, people, you know, first time, you know, experimenting with you know, some of these edibles and ended up dead, right? But you shall not surely die, right? And notice what he says here in verse 5. This is critical. For Elohim does know that in the day that you eat of it, in the day that you disobey him, the day that you eat of that fruit, then your eyes shall be open, and you shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. So this is the devil's doctrine right here that he promoted up to this day. Disobey God, and you can be like God. And the way Aleister Crowley said it, do as thou wilt, right? Do whatever you want to do as long as it's not in line with what the Most High has told you to do. That's his plan for you, to get you to disobey, right? Because there's no consequence, right? The Most High said the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die, right? And he said, no, you shall not surely die. And some people, when they read this verse of scripture, and we talked about this, I think, 2 weeks ago, they read this verse of scripture and knowing that, let's finish it, and I'm gonna bring this point home. Verse 6, and when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she did what? She took of the fruit.
Took the fruit
And did
thereof and did eat.
and gave also to her husband with her, and he did eat. Now, did they drop dead?
No.
They didn't,
Nope.
right? And the eyes of them both were open, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons, right? We're gonna stop there for a moment. So the consequence that the Most High said was, in the day that you eat thereof, you shall surely die. And some people question and say, well, was there really a consequence? Because they didn't die upon eating that fruit. But you gotta understand something. The Most High is eternal, and his clock is different from our clock, right? See, Peter made it plain. He said 1,000 years is
Like
as a day with Yahweh, and a day is as 1,000 years. And so we look, as we look in Genesis, because all the folk that lived over 900 years lived in the book of Genesis. They were talked about in the book of Genesis. And the longest living person was Methuselah, 969 years. But the question is, did he live a day?
No.
He did not live a day based upon the Most High's clock. He did not live 1,000 years. So he said, you know, that, you know, in that day that you eat, and so based upon his clock, they say, you know, okay, it's coming close to the end of the day, then folks can start dropping dead, right? And they all did. Not one person that's ever lived have lived a whole day based upon the Most High's calendar, right? And so we need to be clear on that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, on chapter 3,
Mm-hmm.
verse 5. Can you read that again?
Okay. 3 and 5. For Elohim does know that in the day that ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. Okay.
Did I ask? Okay.
Mhm.
We were taught, where I go,
Mm-hmm.
that we are going to become little gods.
Listen.
Yeah. Some of it I don't understand. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. There are verses of scripture in Psalms that talks about the priesthood, and that the scriptures have said, ye are gods, right? There's scripture that talks about that. but he's referring to the priesthood, right? The priesthood, because they stand in his stead, right?
So not
To minister to
everybody,
the people.
And to minister to the people, right?
but that don't include every.
That does not include everybody.
Cause when I would hear them say it, I'd be sitting in my little spot
But-
and I'd be like,
But let me say this, we're in the Elohim class, right? Because what makes us in this class? Because we are eternal, we have an eternal spirit, and we have an eternal soul. See, Adam did not become a living soul until the Most High breathed into him, right? And so all other creation, he didn't breathe into them, the living, his spirit.
Only man.
Only man. So man was created in the Elohim class. And we know this again. Let's go back to Genesis 1:26. This again confirms that we're in Elohim class. 1:26. And Elohim said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion. So Elohim, being the creator of all things, he is a ruler, is what he does. He rules over all things. But when it came to the earth, what he did is that he created, and then he put someone in his likeness to rule over the works of his hands, right? And so we are created in his class, but we don't go around saying we're God, right? That is something that Satan is trying to put. That's humanism, that he's trying to get people to believe that they are God, right? But we're not doing that. Go ahead.
And we have to remember that the scripture says he's not going to share his glory with another.
With another.
So he made us in his image. He's given us power. We walk in his statute, So we're we're supposed to be the dominant force representing him on this earth. And that's that's not happening because we did die the day that they ate of that fruit. Not just the not living 1,000 years, but we died a spiritual death.
Yeah,
Right.
Because that separated us from him. And that's why they knew they were naked. Prior to that, they were walking in the glory.
They just,
Mhm.
yeah.
Walking in the glory.
And we can ready to deal with that now.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, we can ready to deal with that. Any other question about what we covered so far? Okay, any other question? All right. So look at this now. I'm gonna pick up in 3 and 6. Verse 7. 3 and 7. And the eyes of both of them both were open, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons. So one of the things we're seeing is man's attempt to cover his error, right? You see this? What was man's attempt? They're going to sew some fig leaves together and create aprons to try to cover their sin, right? And they heard the voice of Yahweh Elohim walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife, hid themselves from the presence of Yahweh Elohim amongst the trees of the garden, okay? Now this is very important. This verse of scripture here in verse 8 is pregnant with information, because Elohim knows all things, right? He knew that they had done what they had done. And yet still, he's looking to have their relationship the same way that it's already been, which is they walked with him in the cool of the day. This was a pattern for them, right? Every day, the Most High spent some time with them. We saw in chapter 2 where he showed them where the good gold was. So he kind of gave them a tour of the land and pointed out all the good stuff, right? So it was customary for the Most High to come and spend time with Adam and Eve and have conversation with them. But in this situation, he's coming down after their transgression, and he's still doing what? Looking to have a conversation with them. And what does the sin cause Adam and Eve to do?
Right.
They're hiding, right? Now it's important that we get this. When we're in our bad states, none of us are perfect, right? When we have fallen, the Most High is not running from us. we're running from him, right? Because he's our solution. He's the solution of whatever problem it is you have. If it's drugs, if it's alcohol, whatever, right? The Most High is the solution. And so we need to learn to run towards him and not run away from him. Now, it's the fleshly part of us, plus the enemy speaking in our ear, telling us we're not worthy to approach him. He don't want to hear from you. You know, you've done this, you've done that, which is interesting because he's the one that's trying to get you to do the bad thing in the first place. And then the moment you do it, now he's telling you that you're not worthy. But just before he was saying you're gonna be like God when you disobey, right? So we should be learning. Remember my second question. What plan does Satan have for mankind? So you gotta read between these lines and start picking up where he's at, right? And also picking up where the Most High is.
Okay, let me ask a question.
Go ahead.
But didn't God know that the serpent was there, right?
Oh, absolutely
And he
you do.
knew everything. So all this had to be a plan because if they didn't bite the apple, they was good.
The fruit. We don't know if it's apple. The fruit. Go ahead.
So did they know each other,
Cool.
Adam and Eve, before they did the fruit?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, they knew each other. They hadn't had offspring yet,
Okay.
but they knew.
Because-
Yeah.
So when they ate it, but if he knows everything, shouldn't he just stop the serpent? Well,
That here's the thing. The devil was put down here on earth. He was blasted
right.
down here to earth. We talked about the fall, I think, a week or two ago, right? And so you gotta understand something. When he created mankind, he created him perfect, but he had a problem, right? He had a flaw. And that flaw was free will.
Right.
You know, right? It's like the Most High said, Adam and Eve, I got great news for you guys. You guys got free will. You can choose to do whatever you want to do. But I also got some bad news for you guys. You got free will. You can choose whatever you can do, right? It is a double-edged sword.
Right.
It's a double-edged sword. But here's a question now. Let's say you guys are getting ready to get married, right? Do you want to have your spouse be with you because they love and care for you? Or you want to have a shotgun marriage?
You want to
love and care for you, right? You want them to choose you, right? Because they want to be in that relationship.
Right.
You don't want to, have somebody that you got to keep your 9mm with you all the time. And like, where you going? You better get back over here. I'll put a cap in you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, what kind of relationship is that? You got to go to sleep with one eye open all the time, thinking they're going to try to get away from you. Well, guess what? When the Most High created man, he wanted man to choose him, right? And when he made creation, the Bible talks about the angels singing and rejoicing when different things were breaking forth, right? When, the light broke forth and all this stuff, the angels were present and they were singing. The angels actually observed the Most High in all his glory. There was no question in their mind that Elohim exists. They've seen him, right? They've been in his presence. They may have actually touched him. We don't know. I mean, they were. I mean, Satan's job. He was Lucifer. He was his armor bearer. He literally flew over the throne of the Most High, right? So it's not a question of is Elohim real?
Right.
They saw creation, right? Now let's fast forward. Yeshua spent 3.5 years with his disciples, right? 3 of them were his inner court, Peter, James, and John. They went up to the mountain of transfiguration with him, and they literally saw him transform into his glory. He's shining like light. Then Moses and Elijah show up. And Peter said, man, it's good for us to be here, man. You want us to make three temples for the 3 of y'all, 3 tabernacles, so we can just, worship the 3 of y'all. This is awesome, man. And then the Most High said, this is my beloved son, hear ye him. And then the other two disappeared, and then Yeshua, they looked up, and only Yeshua was present. They saw him walking on water, right? They saw him raising the dead. They saw him do all these wonderful things. And then he had been telling them, that I'm going to be betrayed into the hands of sinners, and they're going to crucify me. And on the third day, I'm going to rise again. He kept telling them that, and they never really believed. They never, for whatever reason, it didn't sink into their understanding. And so much so that when they finally saw him, being arrested and going through all that stuff, they got so scared, they ran. Everybody ran but John, right? And so Peter was so afraid that, while they, got him in the judgment, they asked, "Aren't you one of his disciples?" He said, "No, I don't know the man. This is Peter now, been hanging out, who was up there on the Mount of Transfiguration. No, I don't know. I'm not one of his disciples." And then a second one came up and said, "Man, I'm pretty sure I've seen you with him. Aren't you one of the disciples?" I said, "No, I don't know this dude." And finally, a third person came and said, "Man, your language betray you, man. You sound just like those disciples of Yeshua." And he acted like he was a sailor. I mean, he started, cursing up a storm. He said, "Bleepity bleep, 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 I don't know the man," right? And so he want to make it clear, out of fear, I don't want to be associated with him right now, because I don't know what's going to happen to him, and I don't want it to happen to me. Right. But Yeshua already told him, when the cock crows, before the cock crows twice, you're going to deny me 3 times. And when he heard that bird crow, he realized, man, everything he said is true. And he was so ashamed. He ran, right? Now we fast forward, 3 days have passed, and now he is risen from the dead. The women go to redress his grave clothes, and Mary sees him, right? Mary Magdalene sees him, and she's embracing him and say, "Rabboni, man, it's really you." And she said, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah, it's me, but you don't handle me yet. I've got to go up to my father and to your father, But go to my disciples and tell them that I've risen. I'll come and see them soon." And she goes and tell them, and most of them don't even believe it. Peter and John go to the tomb. They see that it's empty, but they still got doubts, because even later, Peter said, "Man, I'm going fishing, man. I'm going back to my old life," right? But then eventually, Yeshua appeared in the room with them. Now, these guys are still afraid, hiding, every door and window locked, right? And he just appeared in the room, just materialized, and said, "Peace be unto you," right? And so all people were there but Doubting Thomas. And so they see Doubting Thomas. They let the other 10, say, "Hey, man, Yeshua is alive." And Doubting Thomas said, "Man, I don't think it goes somewhere with that. Talk to the hand. I'm not trying to hear that until I can handle the man, until I can put my finger in the hole in his hand, put my fist in the hole in his side. I'm not believing it." And moments later, Yeshua appeared. And then Thomas saw him and said, "My Lord, my Elohim." And Yeshua said, "Come put your hand in my hand. Put your fist in my side. Be not faithless, but believing." Right? And so Yeshua said to him, "Because you've seen me, you believe." But here's the kicker. All that I said is for this point right here. More blessed are those who have never seen me and yet believe. That's the point of why he didn't just wipe the devil out. The devil, this is one reason why the devil and the fallen angels, they have no redemption. They have no grounds to be able to come back and say, "Forgive me for what I've done," because they witness him in all his glory. I'm just curious now, has anybody here at this table ever really seen Yeshua face to face? Right? Now, I've been serving him 45 years, right? I've had some awesome experiences with him, right? I have prayed and asked for things And I've known before it even showed up that it was a done deal, right? I mean, he showed himself so powerful to me and my wife at different times. We're running a business. We're broke, have no money. This is a Sunday night. And we're, like, if we don't get this thing handled before the night, and it's like we just left service, we stood at the church, and I said, I'm not leaving here till we get an answer. And so she and I stayed at the church and we prayed. We prayed and we prayed. And when we first started praying, we was full of burden. But then as we prayed, the burden got lighter and lighter. And then eventually we went from praying to singing songs of rejoicing, right?
Wow.
And I looked at her and said, this thing is done, right? We were running a screen printing business at the time. And we went home, I'm like full of joy. We knew that it was done. Now, nobody showed up, no angel came and talked to us, but we knew in our spirit, none of that, but we knew it was done. We get home and we get a phone call. This is before cell phones and all that, right? We get a phone call from a potential customer that had been in our store maybe 90 days. It had been a while, right? And he had needed, he came and got a quote, needed some stuff. And he called me. Now this is like, must have been 12:30 at night.
Because we were watching Star Trek.
Right.
Star Trek came on late.
Late,
Remember, it
right?
came on late.
Now I want to paint this scenario for you. This guy is about 6'2", right? 6'2", 6'3", midnight black. This man is going through West Bloomfield and Bloomfield Hills, knocking on doors, asking for donations.
Oh yeah, I see
Right?
your face.
Yeah,
now.
right,
I see
right.
your face.
And no, he didn't get shot. No, they did not call the police on
Not
this
one
man.
time.
This man collected, I don't know, almost $2,000.
Really?
I kid you not. Called me on the phone and said, hey man, listen, I got this money and I want to get it to you so you can get busy on my order.
That is not how he said it. He said, I got this money and I gotta get it to you tonight.
That's basically what he said, right?
And I got to get this money to you tonight so you can get my stuff done. Now, he didn't know what we were going through.
Nope.
But he said, I gotta get it to you.
Yeah.
Can you meet me right now?
I said, dude, where you want? Exactly, right? I'm on my way. And it was more than what we needed to order, because we had orders already, and we had paid light bill, we had paid this, we had paid that, paid rent. We were broke. We couldn't even order materials to fill orders we already had. And so this man, now while we were praying, no doubt the Most High was giving this 6'3" midnight dark man favor while he's knocking on these folks' door. They open up their purse, they writing checks, they give him cash, right? And we have more than what we needed. Now I've never seen him, the Most High, but I've seen him work.
Right.
Let me hear what I'm saying. I've seen him work. So you've come too late to tell me he's not real. I know he's real. And that's just one. I can keep you here for hours telling you stories about what the Most High has done for us, right?
He's been good to me too.
Yes.
Extremely.
Oh, yes.
Right? So
And I don't mind saying.
Okay.
so to bring us back, the Most High is looking for people that's not trying to be with him because it's a shotgun wedding, right? But the scripture says in Hebrews 11, without faith, it is impossible to please him. Talk about the Most High. He that cometh to the Most High must first of all believe that he is, and then secondly, must believe that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. So he's looking for that. So he was not looking to remove the obstacle. He's looking for people that can overcome the obstacle. Does that make sense?
So,
Right.
so he's not looking for the people that are looking for him to remove Satan
Mm-mm.
out their garden.
Mm-mm.
But he's looking for those who are willing to say to him, get thee behind me, devil.
Exactly.
I'm not going to disobey the Most High.
That's exactly what he's looking for. Great question, though. That led to a really powerful discussion, right?
Yeah,
All right.
we know when we in sin, we just, and if you don't know sin or nothing, how we come together and we are like God. But
You know what? The Most High had already said, I'm going to create you in my image after my
Right.
likeness. But the reality is, Eve did not actually recognize who she was. And a lot of people fall, and fail the Most High because they don't see themselves the way the Most High sees them, right? Most of the time, our struggle is right here between our ears,
Mhm.
right? Because the scripture says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he, right? So is he. So the Most High, in fact, a great story of an individual is Gideon, right? Gideon, it was at a time when Israel was being assaulted by their enemies, right? And basically what happened, if you really study the life of Israel, the children of Israel, if they were a roller coaster people. Our ancestors were just knuckleheads, right? One moment they're serving the Most High, the next day they're not, right? They worship other gods, and then the Most High would allow their enemies to come in and make them captive, right? And so this is one of the times where they were in captivity. And then the angel showed up to Gideon and said, Gideon, thou mighty man of valor, the Most High is with thee. And so Gideon said, well, if he's with me, then why have all this stuff befallen us? Here I am, I've got to hide my food in a cave, and all this negative stuff is happening to us. If he's with me, then why are we in this condition? And so the angel told him, Gideon, you're gonna bring deliverance to this people. He said, no, you got the wrong one. He said, first of all, I come from the smallest tribe in all of Israel, and my family is the least in the smallest tribe. And guess what? I'm the least, right, in my family. And yet and still you talking about I'm a mighty man of valor. Who you talking about? Because I'm not that guy, right? And so the angel had to take him through a series of tests to help him to see that he was what the Most High said he was, right? And not the diminished view that he had of himself, right? And so when he took him through these various tests, the last test was, okay, get you one of your servants and go and sneak into the camp of the enemy and hear what they're saying about you. And he overheard them saying, this Gideon, he's a bad boy. And man, if he ever get himself together, he's gonna take us out, right? Yeah, and he heard the enemies talking like that, right? And so once he heard that, he said, man, we can really take these folk out. I see it now. And 10,000 men rally around him to have this war. And the Most High said, get in. You got too many folk with you, right? Take them down to the water and let them drink. And everybody that stands up and drink, you can keep them. But those that get down and lap up like an animal, we don't need them. They need to be looking and observing and making sure they can see what's going on. And when everything got said and done, it was only 300 men that were left. He's going up against a major military. But when everything was said and done, they marched in, and the enemy said, this is the sword of Yahweh and Gideon. Let's get up out of it. They start fighting among themselves. The enemy ended up killing themselves. And when they got done, all they had to do was take the spoil. So the Most High is waiting for us to see ourselves the way that he sees us, right? The scripture said what? Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world, right? If the Most High before you, Romans 8 tells us, he is more than the whole world against us. Another person put it this way, if Elohim is for you, then forget everybody else is against you because they can't stand there anyway, right? They can't win, right? You and the Most High are a majority and the rest of the world is a minority. How many get what I'm saying?
And
Questions, comments?
And it's the scripture that says that the whole earth is groaning and travail for the manifestations, for us to realize who we are in him, the manifestations of the sons of Elohim. They are waiting for us,
right,
to be the beacon and to be the strength and to know who we are
That's right.
in him, so that we can do those things that Yeshua did.
Mhm.
You know, we have the ability through the Spirit to do it. You know, and as far as those that want to know where
Romans 8,
no, where Gideon is,
Judges.
it's Judges chapter 6, verse 11.
Very good. All right. Any other questions, comments? Y'all all off my notes and stuff. That with these questions, but it's all good. It's all good. I'm enjoying this. Hopefully you are too. All right. So all right, let's go back to Genesis 3, verse 8. And they heard the voice of Yahweh Elohim walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Yahweh Elohim amongst the trees of the garden. Yeah, right. And Yahweh Elohim called unto Adam, right? He's still reaching out to him and said unto him, where art thou? Now, I want you to understand this question. He's not asking this question for Elohim to know where Adam is. He knows exactly where Adam is. He asked this question for Adam to find out where he's as himself, right? Where are you, Adam? Right? Now, I know where you were yesterday before you ate this fruit, but where are you now? Look at yourself. Examine yourself. Are you satisfied with where you are? Is this the result that you were looking for when you ate of that fruit? Adam, where are you? Right? Where are you? And verse 10 says, and he said, I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked and I hid myself. You know, he sees himself diminished, man. I'm uncovered. I am naked. I am not the man I used to be, right? And Yahweh said, who told thee that thou was naked? So he's asking pointed questions. He wants Adam to examine himself, right? Who told you that you were naked? Hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee that thou should not eat of it? Verse 12, and the man said, look at that. This is not the way you deal with your error. And the man said, the woman you gave me, right? The woman you gave to be with me, she gave me of the tree and I did eat. And so now it's Elohim's fault.
Right.
If you gave me this woman, and look where we are now, right? That's not how you deal with it. Take responsibility for your error. That is not what he's doing, right? And verse 13 says, and Yahweh Elohim said unto the woman, what is this that thou hast done? And the woman said, passing up again, the serpent beguiled me and I did eat. It's a serpent's fault. If you didn't have a serpent in the garden, we'd have been all good, right? And Yahweh Elohim said unto the serpent, because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and thus shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. Now, there's a curse there. I wonder if anybody ever noticed it. When you see the serpent or the snakes crawling, but they're very proficient at it, but it's still not natural for them. It's not natural. He said, on your belly shalt thou go. That's part of the cursing. So imagine yourself, right? You're supposed to have on legs, but all of a sudden your legs are going down and you're having to crawl on your belly, right? And you are used to experiencing being on legs, walking. You know, that would be, you may get used to it, but you're still going to recognize that this is not my natural state. Yeah, he's cursed. And when he goes on the belly, that's a part of his curse, right? Right? Thou shalt eat dust the days of thy life. And I will put enmity, right? A division, a hatred, right? Between thee and the woman, and between thy seed. Now he's talking to Satan. Now he's not talking to the serpent now. He's talking to the devil here, right? I want you to glean some things here from verse 15. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Now let's see if I can get some stuff out of here. So first of all, between thee and the woman. So who's that? The thee is who? Thee and the woman. So the thee he's talking to is who?
And no, Eve.
Mm-mm.
No.
No, no,
Who's the thee?
Who's the devil?
the devil,
Right.
the devil. Right.
Because remember, he started
Okay.
off with the curse to the
Serpent, right?
And-
Okay.
Okay.
So what happened? The serpent was an animal within the garden who allowed himself to be used by the devil,
Right.
right? See, Satan is a spiritual being. He could not even have that conversation unless some animal in that garden was willing to surrender himself to the devil to allow him to use their body. You get that? So the first curse was to the serpent. This next part is to the enemy himself.
Mhm.
So it's important you guys get that. I will put enmity between thee, the devil, right? The devil and the woman. Between thy seed. So whose seed?
Who we talking about?
Who, the devil's seed. Now, I think a lot of people don't get that. Satan has a seed.
Right, that's what I was ready to ask.
Yeah, he has a seed. In other words, he has a people.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Because a seed, he's talking about offspring.
Mhm.
He's talking about offspring, right? No, I'm not talking about the devil is impregnating women
Right.
and he's got
right,
children.
right,
That's not what I'm
right.
saying.
Right.
I'm saying that there are people on this earth.
That are the devil's children.
They've chosen him.
Right.
Eyes
They
wide
worship
open.
him, right,
Yeah.
all that.
They worship him. They drink the blood. I was listening to one video the other day. This couple, he said every now and then the man would just come in with a broken piece of glass and just cut his chest and say, "Baby, come drink."
What?
Yes, they have a ritual of either picking a finger or doing, like I say, sometimes he just goes off and he'll cut his chest and they will drink each other's blood. In you know, they know that they're trying to get the power from each other's blood in their worship of the devil. There are some people that are flat out, and I'm gonna tell you something. When that series of movies came out, who is it? The boy, the movies, the boy that was Harry Potter.
Oh, my.
yeah.
Harry Potter. That
Warlock.
yeah, man, that blew that whole generation of children that came up watching Harry Potter. You got so many in that generation now that are into witchcraft, dark witchcraft.
They don't talk.
Oh yeah, they cast a spell. And understand something. Satan has power. Don't think he doesn't have power. The devil has power, right? That's why he said, "Behold," in Luke 10, "Behold, I give unto you power to tread upon serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy." He's not an empty boaster. Satan's not an empty boaster. He does have power. Now, I'm not saying that for you to get scared and start shaking your boots. Because Luke 10 did say, "I give unto you power over all the power of the enemy." Right? The scripture did say, "Greater is he that is in you than he that's in the world." Right? So, but we need to understand that we do serve, and I mean, we do battle an enemy that has some juice. Right? Now, the world, when they're not saved, the devil already got them.
Right.
You know, in fact, when you look at Ephesians, it talks about the fact that, we once served him, right? Look, pull up, yes, okay, Ephesians 2. Ephesians 2, remember, for newer Bible students, go to your table of contents. It's in the New Testament. Ephesians, we're going to begin reading at the first verse.
Hold on.
Way off our notes today. What I heard our time, but we're still doing good. We still got about 30 minutes. All right.
I know where Ephesians is
It's
at.
behind Galatians, right after
Right.
Galatians.
It's all good. Listen, I want you to get it, so we're gonna take our time, right? We're not rushing. We want you to get this information. He's talking to the church now, right? So this is Paul writing this letter to believers. right? And it says, and you has he quickened. That word quicken means to make alive, who were dead in trespass and sin. So all of us, right, were dead in trespass and sins. Look at this now. Wherein in time past, you walked according to the course of this world,
Mhm.
according to the prince of the power of the air. That's another name for Satan. The spirit that now works in the children of disobedience.
Mm.
Right. That's the seed.
That's the seed. And look at verse 3. Among whom also we all had our conversation
Mhm.
in times past, in the lust of our flesh, fulfilling the desires of the flesh and of the mind, and were by nature, see, we had a sin nature,
Mhm.
by nature, the children of wrath, even as others. So any person that's born, any child born of a woman goes through this cycle of having spent time with the devil, being the devil's seed. But you can be rescued from that, right? You can be pulled out of that madness. So it doesn't matter if you're 2, 22, 32, 42, 62, 82. It ain't too late. It ain't too late. Look what he says here in verse 4. But Elohim, I always love it when they say, but God, right? But Elohim, who is rich in mercy, for his great love, wherewith he loved us. Look what he says here now. Even when we were dead in sins, he quickened us together with Mashiach. You get that? Even when we were dead in sin, you got to understand what was happening here. This is awesome. When Yeshua went to that cross, and there was all kind of verses of scripture that pointed to that event. Psalms 22, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Right? It was pointing to the events, and you should put that in your notes to read Psalms 22, because it talked about so many of the things that he experienced on the cross, right? But one of the things he said once he finally went through that experience, right near the end, he said, "It is finished. It is finished." But before it got to that point, the skies got dark. Like it's talking about like noon, 1 o'clock. It got dark as midnight. Right? The sun refused to shine. Right? Because the creator of heaven and earth is hung up now between the heavens and the earth and getting ready to give his life. And Yeshua said, nobody's taking my life. This is what I received from the Father, that I can give my life, right? And I can get it back again. But don't be mistaken, because if I want to, I can call 12 legion of angels. Snap my finger, they'll be right here, they'll wipe you out. Right? But if I don't do what I'm doing, Holly can't be saved. Right? Linda can't be saved. Terry can't be saved. Tyrone can't be saved. Russ can't be saved. The world will be lost if I don't do what I'm getting ready to do. So I must follow through on this. Yeah. And so when he got on that cross and he said, "It is finished," he had paid the price for the sin of every person on the planet. So when he says in verse 4, but Elohim, who is rich in mercy, for his great love wherewith he loved us, even when we were dead in sin, while we were still smoking that joint and sipping on that tequila, he quickened us together with Mashiach. By grace ye are saved, and hath raised us up together and made us sit together in heavenly places in Mashiach Yeshua. Notice the word there in verse 6, he said, he has raised us up together. He has made us sit together in heavenly places in Mashiach Yeshua. Do you not know that right now, positionally, in the spirit, positionally. When I say position, this is one level, and this is another level, and this is yet another level. Positionally, we are in heaven. Yeah, I saw how your eyes went up. Yeah. We are literally, I mean, look at the, am I reading this right? Right? Verse 6, and raised us up together. He has, as a past tense word, he has raised us up together and will make us.
And made,
He's going to do this sometime in the future.
made,
And I think made is a past tense word. Oh, yeah. And made us sit together in heavenly places in Mashiach Yeshua, that in the ages to come, he might show the exceeding riches of his grace in his kindness towards us through Mashiach Yeshua. See, one of the things, the devil was able to convince these 1/3 angels. He told them some kind of horrific lie. And he was able to convince 1/3 of the angels to join him in forces against the Most High. And one of the reasons why Yeshua was willing to do what he did and dying for us is because we are so much lower in state, in might, in power than the angels. And so for us to be willing to serve him, who we have never seen, by the way, right? I don't know about you. I've never had a visitation where I physically shook Yeshua's hand. I just said that ain't happened, right? It hasn't happened. But our willingness to serve him, right? It gives him so much joy that I mean Romans 8 says, he that spared not his own son, but delivered him up for us all, how shall he not with him also freely give us all things? Now I want you to think about that now. You got your son. You only got one son. You got one son. You tried your whole life to get this son, and you finally got this son, and you love this son, right? I mean, he's a mama's boy, right? He's your dad. You out playing catch with him every day, right? That's your boy. And then all of a sudden, you realize that you got to give him up for the sake of all mankind. You got to give that child up, right? And some are going to believe in his word.
but you didn't even go deep enough.
Right.
You got this son, and you're gonna give him up for people that don't like you, don't appreciate you,
Right.
don't want to obey you, don't want to have anything to do with you, but because of your love that you have for them, you're willing to give up your son. Let's get it right.
Thank you. Right. I mean, that's a reality, right? And we're going to see that in these chapters of Genesis. Genesis is so pregnant with information. I mean, we haven't even gotten barely out of chapter 3, right, of Genesis, and our marches through this Genesis, right? People are absolutely going to reject him. I mean, they absolutely. I'm talking about exactly right. I mean, I would wager 80-90% of the people, right, are rejecting him because he said,
That's a lot of people.
yes, but look what Yeshua said. He said, it is a wide gate, right? And many people that follow that gate that leads to destruction. He said, many people are going into that gate. Why? Because the other gate is very narrow, right? It's a very narrow gate. They almost got to walk sideways to get through it. And very few people find it. The narrow gate is a gate that leads to righteousness, to holiness, to salvation. Most people are looking at a big wide gate and they going in by the grove. Yeah. Yeah, but it's not leading them to the right direction.
Right.
Yeah, so 80-90%. Right? It's a bad percentage. Go ahead.
Yes, it is.
But we gotta remember, the enemy has a home court advantage
Oh my
because he is the God of this world. So we have to remember, like Russell said earlier, the fight and the battle with him is not all about the smoking, the drinking, and the cussing and all of that stuff. It's in your mind. If he can get your mind to get in disobedience, because see, if you get the mindset that you want to be obedient to the Most High, those things that you know He does not want you to do, they won't be a struggle for you. Now, in the beginning, it might be, because our bodies are so used and so conditioned to certain things. It might be hard. I remember when I got saved, I used to smoke, and I got saved and I was still smoking. I was like, oh, Most High, I want to stop this. I want to stop this. I need help, right? And I remember this one day, I made up my mind, I'm going to quit smoking. Had just bought a pack of cigarettes, threw them away, tore them up, and everything. And before the day was out, I was hanging out the door. Hey, you got square? Because my mind had changed, and I hadn't gotten the mindset that it's a do or die.
Right.
So see, the world right now, people out here in this world, their mindset is not on. Most of them don't even know what the will of the Most High is. Everybody puts it to the things that, these things are against him. The fornicating, the adultery and the, and these things like that, stealing, those things are against him. However, he has more things for us than just us getting away from those things. You understand? If you count the weight of his treasure for us against these few things that we allow ourselves to say, I just gotta have, there's no comparison. And then you look at him properly and you say, I want him more than I want those things.
What about these people that know the will, claim to be a follower, but still do that?
There are people.
What do you call those people?
Well, they could be wolves in sheep clothing.
That's what I call them.
Or they could have a reprobate mind where they have just done this stuff so much.
It just seems natural to them.
Yeah, and they just playing both sides.
But you can't.
Here's the thing you got to understand. And those are two different scenarios, right?
Right.
A person who has a real experience with the Most High, right? And the Bible talks about this individual who has experienced the deep things of the Most High. They've tasted of His Holy Spirit. They know and understand the Word. And then at some point, they make a decision to turn away from Him, right? That person becomes a reprobate. And what does it mean to be a reprobate? It means it's like having your mind seared with a hot iron, where the things that would normally convict you of doing something wrong, you know how, if you do wrong, you feel bad about it. Once you're reprobate, you don't feel bad about it anymore. You reach a status where sin don't even faze you. That person cannot be retrieved. That person has crossed the line. He's gone too far, right? It's a done deal for them. Their fate is sealed. That's what I call a zombie. That person is walking dead, right?
You see, at least I do. I see so much of it. And God forgive me if I'm wrong. I'm sorry. Go ahead. People literally make me sick.
They exist. They exist.
I'm serious. It's almost to the point where
Go ahead.
I don't like them.
Well, I mean,
see, it grieves your spirit,
right?
Because this is the thing, like he said, the moment a person gets to the point where they're not convicted, because see, we are always growing. Nobody's perfect.
And nobody know everything.
Exactly. And we can't judge anybody. The person that judges is the Most High. but we can judge our own self.
Right.
Okay, so when we are in error and the spirit convicts us and say, okay, now you better stop that. Now it's enough. And you hear that
Right.
and you be like, I want to stop. I need some help. Help me stop. You're not in a bad place right there.
Right.
You need to work on it. You need to
Mhm.
pray. You may need to
And I
fast.
do, and I
Okay.
also
And no, when I
ask
say I'm just talking about people, period. Okay. But then you have some that they'll do it, and the Most High say, now you know doggone well you're not supposed to do that. And they'll be like, and
Right. So that's the reprobate.
that's the reprobate.
But there's another group of people that doesn't fall in that category, and they're also wrong. And these are the wolves in sheep clothing.
They're intentionally doing
They know coming in, right? And I'm gonna give you a way that you can know. Some of these people have these Eastern Star
Yeah.
and what's the other one? The Eastern,
Mason.
the Mason. Now you gotta understand they have 33 degrees.
Not more.
No, it's 33.
It's only 33.
Yeah.
Yeah, this time they can
33
go.
degrees. And once you reach the pinnacle of
Certain.
that degree, they flat out tell you we serving the devil. We worship Satan.
Yeah, and then
Right.
if you tell our secret, we'll cut out your tongue.
Right.
and all
Yeah.
that
I mean,
stuff.
it's
Yeah.
serious stuff. So now here's the issue. There are some churches you can go to, and the parking lot is full of those.
Yeah, you see the little emblems on the
Yeah.
cars and stuff.
Right.
yeah.
And most of the time, they're parked in the pastor's parking spot.
Not cutting you off, but because the pastors are.
Exactly. They're so those are not reprobates.
They
These-
know what they doing.
They know exactly what they're doing. They're coming in to teach a distorted message to a people who are seeking the truth,
And getting lied to.
and they get lied to. So that's a whole different group of people,
Oh my God.
right? So the people of Most High need to have their eyes wide open. And so one of the reasons why I started up this Bible study again, and eventually the Most High is going to have us to go back into pastoralship, right? Is because he needs to have a people that's going to teach the truth and going to live the truth, right? And so that's my commitment, because it's just too much confusion out here. The messages that are going on out here are either watered down or they're confused
Flat out lying.
or flat out lying, right? And people need to know the real truth of what the word of the Most High is saying.
I asked him for that because I see so much stuff. You know what I'm saying? I'd be like, Lord, if it's me, show me me.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Correct me.
Right.
But you know in your heart of hearts, right? If you've done something to somebody or say, you know. And when you do that video replay in your mind,
Mhm.
I do it all the time.
You gotta tell me.
I do.
You understand, right?
Yeah, when you do that instant replay in your mind from A to Z, and you know, I didn't do anything. So why this, that, and the other? But I still ask him to show me me.
Mhm. Because he want to take you higher.
Yeah.
There may be something.
Oh, because
Go ahead.
I ain't trying to put y'all out. I just have a problem. I have a problem. Not understanding, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a therapist, I'm not him. But why do people act the way they act? It bugs me. It really do.
Don't take that class though. Don't take that class, right? Because that will have you banging your head up against the wall. They'll put you in the
I
white
just be trying to
coat.
understand why.
You can't.
You can't.
Don't take that class, right? Because we don't know what's motivating people, right? We will never know.
It's gotta be that.
But
I'm gonna tell you what Brother Jacob called Lucifer, Mr. No Shoulder. It's gotta be him, that snake.
But-
it's gotta be.
But again, I say don't take that class
Okay.
because we don't know. I mean, like I say, we've described two groups of people that is in the world, right? We've described the reprobate, and we described the one that's just a wolf in sheep clothing.
Right,
They exist, and they're
right.
Yeshua put it this way.
But he gonna eventually show them.
Yeah.
right?
Well, no. Let me just let the parable speak for itself.
Okay.
Yeshua went out. He said the sower goes out to sow the seed.
Yep.
Right. He put out good seed into the harvest, right, into the ground. Then the enemy came in
While they were sleeping.
while they were sleeping and planted tares into the ground. And so a few days go by, and then the caretaker comes to the master and say, Master, I know you put good seed in the ground. Why is it then that we have these tares growing up with the wheat? And so the master said, nobody did this but the enemy. And so they said, well, do you want us to go and rip out these tares, get rid of them out of the garden? And Yeshua said, no, don't do that. Because if you rip out the tares, you may get some of the wheat along with it, because they look exactly the same. He said, let them both grow
up
together, right? And in the harvest time, at the end of the world, he's gonna do the separate. So for you to frustrate yourself with trying to pick and choose what's wheat and what's tare, that's not your assignment. You will frustrate yourself doing that, right? Your job is to be the best wheat you can be and bear fruit.
That's it.
That's your job.
That's your job.
To be light and salt, right? Be salt and light, right? Salt is a preservative, right? You get some meat, they used to, cover it up with salt and it wouldn't spoil. And light shows the way. Our assignment is to be salt and light, right? So what does that mean? Do what Paul says, follow me as I follow Mashiach. So as long as you're walking right, other people will look at you and they will be able to see there's something different about Linda. She's not walking like that other joker that's, always cursing and always trying to fill me up and all this and stuff.
But they go to church every day.
They don't miss service, but they're not bearing the right fruit. It's something wrong with their actions. People know.
Yeah.
So our only responsibility is to be the best, fruit that we can be.
Well, the scripture puts it like this. It says, work out your own soul salvation
Fear and trembling,
with fear and trembling.
right?
The fear and trembling part is, I'm going to do everything I know I need to do because I don't want to end up reprobate or being a wolf in sheep's clothing or anything. I'm going to do what I need to do.
Right.
And
That's
that's
what I
all
do.
you can do.
That's the only person you can
That's
control.
only that, and for the others, you just pray for them.
Yeah.
Just pray for them. You ain't got to go into unless the Spirit leads you into some deep intercession for them. You pray, but if He doesn't, Most High, open their eyes and have your way in their lives.
That's all you can do.
Because you can't do it.
You're trying to be God if you try to do that.
Yeah.
Anything beyond that, you're trying to be
and
God.
then you're going to outstretch yourself, and that's not your burden.
That's right. That's right.
That's not your burden.
Got about 10 more minutes. All right. Good stuff, though. Good stuff. But we just got to, pick the right battle, right? Anything else, you don't want to be stressing yourself out, doing stuff that you shouldn't be doing.
It's not so much that I stress over it,
Make
but
you angry.
in your alone time,
Mhm.
okay. I like to play in the dirt. I like to plant flowers. That's where I get my peace. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
My son told me, he said, Mom, I don't like the new you. I've been on the walk now for about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Even before I come into the knowledge of who I was and who I wasn't. Well, you've been knowing me all my life. I ain't never been no bad person. I ain't been perfect, but I wasn't a bad person. But he said, Margie, I don't like this new you. He said, you just so laid back. You act like nothing, you don't care about nothing no more. Nothing don't bother
What does he mean when he say that, though?
because I know I've changed.
Okay.
Because there's been instances where once upon a time, I might have stuck my fist in somebody's throat. You know
Okay,
what I'm
I got
saying?
you. So here's my next question then. Your son, is he a believer? And it doesn't sound like he is.
He's not.
Okay.
But
So
I pray for him
so-
daily too. You know
right.
what I'm saying?
So here's the thing, Linda. Because you're troubled by your son's reaction. That is a natural reaction when darkness and light are in the same place at the same time, right?
But I understand what you're saying.
No, you need to get this though, right? If he has not accepted the Most High as Savior yet, then you guys are not walking the same path. That's your son, but you're still not walking the same path. What you got to do, go back to what I said before. You still got to be the best you can be for the Most High, and let your life draw him in.
And that's what
And the other thing now, a prophet is not without honor except in his own household. So you may not be the one to win him, even though you still got to live the life. You have to pray that the Most High will send somebody who has influence with your son to bring him in.
Right.
You get that?
for that. Yes, I do.
Okay, you need to be praying. There's somebody that he looks up to, right? There may be somebody that he would, listen to that word. He needs for that person to, find the Most High and then come to him and say, hey man, you need to try this. You need to do this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because most likely it won't be your word that'll win him. It'll be someone
somebody
else's.
else
Yeah,
on
yeah.
the other side of the
Right.
door.
exactly.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
still, you have to live the life.
Got
And
you.
I do.
And I
Got
believe you. I'm just
I
saying,
do.
for
Yeah.
us, when we have loved ones around us that don't know him, it's a challenge
Mhm.
because they know how to push your buttons. And I'm not saying your son is, okay, but they know how to push your buttons and try to get that old you to come out.
Right.
Okay. And that's what we can't do. And we have
And I won't.
to continue to let the light of the Most High shine in us, even if at times they get us so frustrated. You just go in your room and close your door. I know, let me speak for myself. I just go in my room and close my door.
Right.
I'm like, y'all just leave me alone.
All right.
Okay. So,
I'm going to arrest the last 8 minutes of this. I got something I got to cover before we get out.
okay.
All right, let's go back to verse 15.
Ephesians.
Genesis.
Oh, no, we're back to Genesis 3. We got this. This is our foundational verse. All right, start at Genesis 3:15. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. So we've made it clear now. This scripture is talking about Satan and the woman. Now, we don't know, we know who the woman is. It's eventually going to be Mary. But the world don't know. And when Satan heard this prophecy, he began to try to come up with a counterfeit. And it's been so many counterfeits down through the years. And we're going to deal with that in future lessons. How he's created a false religion around Genesis 3:15. This woman, okay, he has a whole false religion around this woman, right? But he has a seed, and this woman has a seed. The ultimate seed was going to be Yeshua, right? But this seed of the woman is going to bruise Satan's head, and Satan's head is going to bruise his heel. So if you get a picture of that, Yeshua's going to have this combat boot on, right? The steel-toe combat boot on, right? And he gonna put that boot down on the devil's head.
Right.
Yeah, so if you can picture that, that's what happened 3 days after the cross. 3 days after the cross, that's exactly what happened, okay? Let's go on now. Verse 16. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children. I don't know. We got mothers in the room. Was it a painful experience to bear those children? Well, you can look at Eve and thank her for that, right? And look at this now. And thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. Now this is a horrific curse right here. But the Most High had to do this was because the woman in this situation should never have had a conversation with the serpent in the first place. It was not her place, right? You know, she should have gone to Adam and had that conversation, right? And said, you know, when the serpent showed up, you know, we talked about it a lot last week. Go talk to Adam about this situation. He knows more about this than I do. He got the instruction from the Most High. I'm sure he'll understand whether or not what you're saying is true or not. But she took it upon herself to have this dialogue with the serpent, and she made a decision to eat of this fruit, you know, without really consulting Adam. And so, as a result of that, the Most High is saying that your desire is going to be to your husband, and he shall rule over thee, right? And so, this makes women vulnerable, right? When it's distorted, when it's taken out of place, the woman becomes vulnerable because a man can get the power over of a woman's heart to so much so that she will sell her body to feed him, right? And she can know that he's got a second or a third or a fourth, and she will still stay in that. And some women will just be, they will fall so far as they will, you know, walk the street for this man, right? And be with countless men, right? And then take all the money they earn and put it into the hands of this man, right? This pimp. All this comes back to this verse 16 right here. When it's perverted, that's what it looks like. But when it's not perverted, it just looks like a woman who is honoring her husband, right? And when it's not perverted, you know, you can have a strong woman. I'm married to almost 40 years now, married to a strong woman who I empowered, right? She is strong because I empowered her, right? And so, but when it comes time for submission or respect, you know, her authority comes under my authority, right? And she does it willingly, right? And so that's when it's not perverted. Okay, let's move on. We just got a couple minutes. Yes, exactly, right. And then verse 17. And unto Adam he said, because thou hast hearkened to the voice of your wife, and hast eaten of this tree which I commanded thee, saying, thou shalt not eat of it, cursed is the ground for thy sake. In sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. So it's not that work is the curse, it's unproductive work is the curse. Because man was put there, remember, to till the soil, right? And to keep the garden. So work is an honorable thing, but to be working and not bearing fruit, that's frustrating. And that's what they experienced up until the flood. Okay, we'll deal with that in future lessons. He said, thorns and thistles, not fruit, but thorns and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat of the herbs of the field, right? That's hard labor right there. In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread till thou return to the ground. For out of it wast thou taken, for dust you are, and unto dust you shall return. And Adam called his wife Eve, because she was the mother of all living. Unto Adam also was his wife. To his wife did Yahweh Elohim make coats of skin and clothe them, right? Yahweh Elohim made coats of skins and clothed them. He made coats of skin. Now, what does that mean? Somebody tell me what that means.
Covered their naked.
With what?
The skins of animals.
So how did he do that? If he's covering them with coats of skin, what had to have happened?
An animal had to die.
An animal had to die.
Yeah.
See, man's choice for covering was leaves, right? But something had to die.
Yeah.
Right? What the scripture said, without the shedding of blood, there is no remission or covering, right, for sin. And so this pattern that the Most High established here, you know, the killing of an animal, the killing of something that was alive and taking in its skin as a covering, was the first sign of what was going to have to happen in order for man to be redeemed.
And the animal that had nothing to do with what they did.
Yeah.
The animal was sinless.
Keep in mind now, Adam named every animal in the garden. He named them. I mean, he had a computer brain, right? He literally named every creature. So it's like he knew them like Fido, my dog. So if you can imagine when and I believe it was a lamb, right? Because that's the pattern. In fact, the scripture says the lamb. If you look at Revelation 13:8, John was writing. He said, "Behold, the lamb that was slain, killed from the foundation of the world." And then when John the Baptist saw him, the first time he saw him, he said, "Behold, the Lamb of Elohim." Right? So what does that tell us? And we're gonna get a couple bonus minutes here, but we need to deal with this before we close out. What does that tell us? He said, "The Lamb of Elohim that was slain before the foundation of the world." What does that scripture tell you?
Some of our Zoom partners, if you guys want to speak, can speak to.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think that meant? The lamb that was slain before the foundation of the world. No idea. Okay. All right. Yeah. I know you know. All right. So now.
I'm not gonna say.
So I want you guys to understand this.
Okay.
This is pretty important. We're gonna wrap up with this, right? Now, when the Godhead had counsel before creation, before Adam and Eve was ever even created, right? Before he had, planted anything in the garden, anything, right? They had a council, right? And they said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion." And what happens, because we know Satan is going to be down there. He's already been cast to the earth. So then what happens now if man should rebel against us? What are we going to do to make it right? And Yeshua spoke up and said, "Prepare me a body, and I will go down, and I will die as a substitution on their behalf." Before they even ate of the fruit, before they were ever tempted, he was a lamb slain from the foundation of the world, right? He's like, and here's the thing you got to understand. Why was man created? The Most High wanted to create something in the God class, right? In the Elohim class that he can have fellowship with. He created man so he can have someone to fellowship with. And so knowing that there's a chance, because they're going to have free will, that they may choose to go against him, he said, we have to have a way to get him back. Right? What can we do to get him back? And Yeshua said, "Prepare me a body, and I'll go down." Right? And so therefore, that verse 3:15 says, "The seed of the woman." Because remember now, a woman has no seed. The woman has an egg. The seed comes from the man, right? So in this case, when Mary, who was a virgin, she said, "How is this going to be, seeing I have not known a man?" He said, "The Holy Spirit is going to overshadow you. Basically going to implant a Holy Spirit seed within you, and that Holy Spirit seed is going to impregnate you. And then that thing that you shall bear shall be the Holy Son of Elohim." Right? And now he's got a body. That's how his body was prepared. See, the woman prepared the body for him, right? Not a man. Right? He was, basically Elohim in the flesh. And then now he was able to come down now and pay the ultimate price for every one of us. Everybody get that?
Yeah.
You got to get that. So we're gonna leave it with that. And one last thing I want to do before we close, we're gonna be dealing with some questions in this Bible study. we're gonna be dealing with some questions. Because my goal is for each and every one of you to have a clear understanding of the plans of the Most High, the plans of the devil, because you know your enemy, right?
Yeah.
Right. So here's some questions that we're gonna be dealing with. And I want you guys, you don't have to write them down. In fact, I'm gonna print these out. But is the Most High all powerful? If he is all powerful, does he control the actions on the earth? Right? These are things that people have questions about. We want to answer these questions. Is the Most High Elohim a loving Elohim that cares about his creation? I mean, that's an interesting question, right? Right? If he truly cares about us, then why does bad things happen to good people? And then another question, what can we do to have a positive effect on the outcomes of our lives? Is there something that I can do that can cause things to change, right? That's a series of questions. There's going to be more questions. Is Satan the God of this world? How does he manifest his rulership? Does Satan have human followers or disciples? Now, we learned a little bit about that today, right? He has his own seed, right? How are they organized? Right? How are they rewarded? Does it pay to serve the devil? Now, these are some serious questions. We're going to be getting into this, right? More questions. What is the Most High's plan for mankind? What can I do to win in this life? How does the Most High correct the fall of man? We learned that one today, right? Prepare me a body, and I'll go down. Does it pay to serve the Most High Elohim? I mean, I want to know, because here's the reality. I asked two questions. Does it pay to serve Satan? Does it pay to serve the Most High? Because here's the bottom line is, when we get done with this study, if it makes more sense to serve the devil, then we need to start serving the devil. Right. I'm talking about 100, right? And if we get down at the end of the study, if it makes more sense to serve the Most High, then we need to be serving him with 100. Right. I mean, hear what I'm saying? But guess what? There's not going to be any question about any of this.
We're not gonna be walking around thinking, am I sinning, am I not? Am I sinning, am I not? Am I with him, am I not? You're gonna know if you're with him or not.
Right. Right.
That can't stand the fence, right?
Ain't gonna be no straddle fit. And here's the thing that I want you guys to understand. You're gonna get excited about your walk, right? Because there's rewards. In his presence is fullness of joy. Yeshua said this about the kingdom, and I'm gonna close with this. The kingdom of heaven is like a pearl of great price that a man was searching for, and when he found it, he sold everything he had that he can get this pearl of great price. Now, if your experience and your walk with the Most High is not such that you're willing to give up everything to have it, guess what? You don't have a real revelation of your walk. You're lacking a revelation. If I pulled up here in a Rolls Royce and gave you the keys and said you can drive it, and I come back a week later and you letting your dog sleep in the car, you done turned it into a doghouse. Right. That tells me you don't understand the value of what I've given you.
Right.
That's what people are experiencing with this salvation. They only got a scratch of the tip of what it really is to serve the Most High. And when we get done with the study, I want you guys to be hovering. Your feet don't even touch the ground because you got a full understanding of the power and the might and the privilege and the benefits, the honor of walking with the Most High. How many hear what I'm saying here today? That's what it's all about. All right. Any final questions or comments?
I just have a little comment.
Go ahead, dear.
When I first came into the retreat, I was brought up in the Baptist church. When I tell you I cried for a whole month, I did, and apologized. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I say I know at these stoplights. People probably thought this woman that lost her mind,
Mhm.
you know, but it wasn't that. I was feeling something.
Right,
yes.
right.
Mhm.
You got a real experience.
I was feeling something. And I tell you, I apologize every day,
Mhm.
every day.
Mhm. That was an experience.
Mhm.
You had a real experience.
And the only thing that's missing,
Oh, and I was so excited
Mhm.
everywhere I went. I was telling people, even the cashiers at the grocery store,
Mhm.
anybody I encountered, I was sharing my good news with them.
Mhm.
because it was real.
It was, and
It's real.
it was real to me.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know
So-
about nobody else, but it was
so-
real to me.
So here's the goal, right? Here's the goal. We want to build on that experience, take it to another level, right? Because there's a scripture that says, "I have not seen,
Years
ear have not heard, neither has entered into the heart of man the things that the Most High prepared for those who love Him. But He reveals those things unto us by His Spirit," Corinthians tell us, right? And so I want you guys to have a spiritual experience such that you will begin to get a revelation of how great this gospel is. Okay, so that's the game plan, folks. All right, did y'all get anything out of this today?
I did.
All right, wonderful. So we're gonna pray out. Blessed are you, Yahweh Yeshua, our Elohim, King of the universe, who gave us the Torah of truth and implanted eternal life within us. Blessed are you, Yahweh Yeshua, giver of the Torah. In Yeshua's name, so be it. In the Rana benediction. Yivareka Yahweh Barishmareka. Ya'er Yahweh Panavaleka Vekomeka. Yisai Yahweh Panavaleka Vyasanaka. Shalom. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. May Yahweh make his face shine upon you and show you his favor. May Yahweh lift up his face towards you and give you shalom, peace. Nothing missing, nothing broken, nothing lacking, but everything whole and complete. All right. Shavua Tov family. Until the next time, be blessed. Be blessed. Yeah, Shavua Tov means have a good week. Have a good and blessed week. Okay. All right. All right.